we're in a really amazing space just within the world where we're getting a chance to see the evolution of technology happening in real time, and everybody gets to be a part of it. You talk about financial freedom and financial, ability to run your own life, but we still are in all of these systems that are creating centralized ownership. And I think that the only true path forward is, decentralization and blockchain.
All right, guys, welcome to Financial Freestyle with Ross Mack here on Yahoo Finance. Now, look, whether you're a Wall Street professional, a retail investor, or just beginning to reshape your financial future, there's always a first step. So, guys, join me as I sit down with some of the most influential voices in finance to uncover their journeys towards economic success. And today's no different, man. I'm sitting down with my dog, Chris Lyons, general partner Andreessen Horowitz, and president of Web3 Media. My dog, welcome to the show, baby.
Brother. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Bro. You know, we always see each other on some amazing, different cities, this and the third, but I appreciate you coming here to New York, man.
Exactly. No, this is the city where it all goes down. And so,
absolutely, I'm
excited to have the conversation.
Yeah, man. General partner Andreessen, all this and the third, but to the world right now, who is Chris Lyons, man?
For me, I'm just a guy that likes to turn thoughts to things. I love ideas. I love thinking about big picture opportunities, seeing how the world's going to go. And I've always just loved incorporating technology as being one of those vehicles in order to help translate things that are in your mind to actually getting them out there into the world. And so, I'm super fortunate to be now on the venture side. We're exploring really, a lot of different technologies, whether it's blockchain to AI to, figuring out where the next big consumer product is going to be coming. But at the end of the day, I just love vision and seeing how different vehicles can actually kind of create that way.
I love it, man. We're going to get down and talk about all that, but how did you get started? What was your career path to becoming general partner?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, for me, it was a very long journey. I actually started off unconventionally in the music industry. That was my first passion. And so I was a music producer and engineer. Actually used to work with the songwriter of the decade, Jermaine Dupri. I'm sure you guys all know his music, and he's a great guy, and just really got a chance to witness what it was like being in a first-in-class environment, and also just taking, how to see the world, especially from Atlanta, where I grew up, to then being able to have that type of translate all around the world, right? And so, but I also love technology at the same time, and it was really interesting just seeing, when I was working in the studios, but also seeing kind of the evolution from MP3 players to iPods to iPhones coming out, and then really kind of understanding that, hey, this is going to be the next big momentum and where the next shift is going to go. And so, as a kid, I kind of was able to teach myself how to code a little bit. Back in the day, there was this thing called MySpace and different HTML projects. And so I'm dating myself a little bit. But from there, I was like, okay, well, I'm a music engineer. I'm always on the computer. Engineering's engineering. I went to school for it, so why can't I teach myself to be a computer engineer too? And so ended up teaching myself how to code. Ended up getting accepted to an incubator that flew me across the country from Georgia to Silicon Valley. It was only supposed to be there for 3 months, and 12 years later, still in the game.
So, man, you said something interesting where it was really you were always identifying what's next, right? You talked about technology, taking ideas in your head and actually, making it realistic, right? But how have you always been able to identify what's next? Because I think that's going to segue into your current career, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think you got to have a pulse on, I think it's two things. I think, and I do attribute a lot of, me growing up in Georgia and hearing, whether it's music or seeing different trends or being at the forefront of kind of where things go. I think I call it being at the intersection of culture and innovation.
Right.
So being able to understand, from a cultural standpoint, what are the things that people are interested in on a day-to-day basis? Like walking the streets of New York City or, being on a group chats with your homies and hearing what people are talking about and what's getting them excited. But at the same time, mapping that out with where you think the future of the world can go. How can blockchain or NFTs or Web3 technologies really help impact and support some of the things that we're talking about that have with people that don't care anything about the future or are not really thinking about that on a day-to-day basis. And so being able to kind of also market map, like from an idea standpoint, how you can kind of see these things and where the trends are going to go. At our firm, one of the things that we always talk about is this concept of good ideas that look like bad ideas, which is a kind of a contrarian point of view. But at the end of the day, some of the biggest, things that we use on a day-to-day basis, from Uber to Airbnb, even Google when it first came out, these all sounded like terrible ideas when they were coming out, right? But there's a thing that the founders knew that nobody else knew. And they had the ability, what we call like an earned secret. So they actually really took this information and took their entire life's purpose and then decided to build a company that sounded crazy at the time, but it was just so forward thinking. And being able to, really have that mentality of, being a couple steps ahead, but when someone tells you it's a bad idea or tells you something that sounds a little bit outside the way, that's just really putting yourself in position for where the next future of the innovation's happening, but then also tying that with what you can currently do right now. Uber would never have been able to, and Airbnb would have never been able to work without the cell phone. I mean, without the iPhone and or the smartphone technology, because now you have GPS in there, you have payments that are already integrated into there, and so you have to keep up with where things are going right now, but then still envision the big picture at the same time.
So it's a lot of talking today about where the world is going, right? Robots and AI this and AI that. But, what a lot of people don't hear, well, from the outside looking in, right? We haven't heard as much recently about kind of Web3, crypto, blockchain, et cetera. So let's actually talk about that, man, because that's something that I'm fascinated about. I'm definitely a crypto enthusiast. So let's talk about that. What's your vision for it, and why should people actually start paying attention to it?
Yeah. Look, blockchain technologies, it's just it's a computer system that really verifies ownership, that verifies, the fact that, like, from smart contracts to non-fungible tokens to really, it's like a supercomputer. It's like a computer that's built on top of the internet that then now runs in its own ecosystem. And this is where you're seeing these different protocols and different tokens that are starting to get built, such as Ethereum and Bitcoin, which is more so of like a digital gold type of situation. But at the end of the day, people talk about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And don't even necessarily know like how to break down Web3, like, and why do they even call it that? And the easiest way to think about it is that there's been 3 eras of the internet. The first one is just the read era, so that's just like something like an AOL or my colleague Mark Andreessen built the browser, so like Internet Explorer, like where you can actually read things on the internet, right? And then the next component was the write era, so you have read and write. That's what we call like the Web 2. And then you saw companies like Facebook and Pinterest and Airbnb and like so many different businesses in the 2010 era, Twitter, you name it, that all now came from this Web 2 era. But the big difference between what was going on in quote unquote Web 2 versus where we are now with what blockchain technologies can really encourage is this ownership layer. And so people, when they're on Instagram or when they're on YouTube, they might think that they might have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers. And you might have that, but they're not yours. They're actually, you're still having to deal with the middleman. You're still having to deal with the corporation that's taking 30%, or Spotify that we love Spotify, but from an artist standpoint, only 0.5% of all artists make over $50,000 a year or more on those platforms. And that's because of take rates. And those take rates are applied on to so many of these Web 2 businesses that then it's great for the corporations, but it's bad for, the ownership is bad for creators. It's bad for, people that want to make a living and not have to deal with someone else taking a huge cut. Apple takes 30% of all payment of all App Store transactions. You know, YouTube can take up to 30% of all your videos and monetization. And so and the worst part about it is that if you look at the internet over the past 15, 20 years, you've kind of seen this halt of innovation. You've seen, like, if you look at the App Store right now, it's literally the same 15, 20 companies that constantly stay at the top of the charts because we have this infrastructure that is currently just literally stable, like defaulted in terms of innovation. But blockchain technologies are going to really open and unlock this wave, which is Web3, which is what we consider ownership. So read, write, and own, which is the third layer. And through that, you're going to now be able to have 0-to-1 engagement with your fans, where if you want to sell something directly to an artist, or, you know, if think about, you know, Basquiat back in the day, like, you know, he was sold a painting for $25,000. 100 years later, I mean, not 100 years later, like, you know, 50 years later, that same piece is now sold for $100 million.
Yeah.
Right. And how much was he able to take from that?
He gets none of that.
Exactly.
Except for the original
right.
25K.
So, but if that was on chain, what happens now is that there's a smart contract that's already written inside of it. So, and you can say, I'm going to get 10% of every single secondary transaction that's now being sold. And so that's on the blockchain, and it's inscribed and it's written through code, makes it guaranteed process that all these transactions moving forward, you're now going to get a 10% cut from 25,000 to 250,000. You'll get 10% from 250,000 to 2 million, and constantly going on and on. And so, and without having to deal with a third-party structure that then's going to take their cut at the same time. And so when you think about that applying to so many different industries and where it's going to go, it's a really exciting time and our belief is that it's going to not just, right now we're in the infrastructure side where we're really building out the rails that can help really, you know, create the next generation of the internet using these things. But even more so, which I'm personally excited about, is you're going to start to see brand new social networks that are going to come out where you can actually, you know, have 100% ownership of your followers. New music platforms are going to come out where, you know, instead of having to make 1 million streams in order, or 1 million purchases for an artist to have a sustainable living, now all you need is 1,000 true fans that can now every day buy your CD, buy your merch, buy your tickets, follow, and you can create an actual living off of that. And so, you know, decentralization and ownership, I think, is the real future, and it's what we talk about all the time. You talk about financial freedom and financial, you know, ability to run your own life, but we still are in all of these systems that are creating centralized ownership. And I think that the only true path forward is, you know, decentralization and blockchain.
Yeah, look, I believe, you know, that we're going to start seeing this implemented in our everyday life, right? Well, actually, you know, let's take a quick break, right? Let's take a quick break. We're going to get back, right? Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk more about Web3.
Are you going to leave them on the edge? God, you're about to get into the good stuff.
All right, guys, welcome back to Financial Freestyle. Look, this week we're joined with Chris Lyons, general partner at Andreessen Horowitz and president of Web3 Media. And listen, if you don't know nothing, right, just know this is one of the guys that's at the forefront of the new wave of technology, that being Web3, that being blockchain. And so, you know, we were talking about it before the break, but like, to a person that's on the fence, right, that's, you know, stuck in the Stone Ages, right, that's still trying to go to Blockbuster when Netflix come around, like, what are you saying to that person?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's what I'm telling them is just sit back and relax, because, you know, with all types of innovation that's happening, you know, it's up for people that are, you know, builders, and then you actually have, you know, consumers and people that are going to take advantage of it, right? And, you know, I have a theory that I'm basically calling hiding the wires, where the next generation of, whether it's blockchain or even AI technologies, you're not even going to really notice or know that you're using them, nor does it matter, right? Like, I think a great example is like the GPS technology. You know, like, the beauty of what we're doing with today is that now, you people are building products online, and because of Twitter or even website podcasts like this, like you're able to now get real-time information on how things are going. But back in the day, like nobody was getting up-to-date speeds on what was going on with GPS technology, right? And that's a super, super, super complicated infrastructure. But once it was built, now it was able to create brand new platforms. And, like I said, like companies like Uber and Airbnb and DoorDash were able to be created from that, just from GPS technology.
Yep.
And when you're trying to, get to the restaurant or your friend's house, you're not opening up your Maps app saying, hey, how does this GPS technology work?
Yeah.
You're just saying, look, how do I get from A to B? And behind the scenes, you're actually dealing with an extremely complicated system that now is running so many different platforms, and people are relying on it on a day-to-day basis, right? And what we're working on and what I'm super hopeful and excited about is that the next wave of whether it's AI companies or blockchain technologies, you're not going to need to know all the details and how layer 2 layer 2 applications work, or like what does it mean to have a protocol, or all these things, because there's going to be the application side where people are just going to be building products, and you're just going to be able to receive all the benefits of crypto and why decentralization matters. And so that's where the future of the industry is going. It's just that we're in a really amazing space just within the world where we're getting a chance to see the evolution of technology happening in real time, and everybody gets to be a part of it.
I love the way you actually kind of spoke to it. It's like you don't even realize it, but you'll be using it one day.
You're going to be using
I
it.
remember printing out directions on MapQuest.
Exactly. Now you're dating yourself. No, I did the same thing.
We did this together, baby. But like, bro, can you just the idea of like printing out the directions, and now, like to your point, you'll be using the technology and not even
that's the hope.
It,
that's actually the best part about it is, it's almost like you don't go. There's so many different types of things where you understand and appreciate the magic for what it is, and. And I think that as technologists and as builders, the goal is to make it as seamless as possible. Right. No, when you open up Instagram, you're just looking at trying to have an experience. You're not thinking about, if I upload this video, what server does it go to? How does it actually stay? Like, how do all these things kind of move and shake? Yeah. Like, people do worry about the algorithms, but other than that, it's a very, streamlined and simple process.
So to the average person, right, that's listening, right, when you hear, right, and obviously you're a person that's thinking 5-10 years down the line, but to an average person that's sitting at home, how are they thinking about Web3, blockchain, crypto, et cetera, in that whole world, and saying, I want to take advantage of it from an investment standpoint? What you're able to disclose, right? But like, what would you tell those people?
Well, I think that, you have to do your research. You have to understand kind of what the opportunities are available out there. But it does create a level playing field where anyone has access to be able to, leverage, ecosystems like Coinbase or Uniswap to really kind of participate in this ability to, invest into. And they're not just companies. These are like real life technologies that are actually building blocks. So I think the most important thing is not just looking at it from a token standpoint, but what is it that these things are doing? And people sometimes think of Ethereum, or they think of Bitcoin or Solana or all these things as just, ticker symbols. But just like an Apple or Microsoft or Tesla, are publicly traded companies that are actually building infrastructure and things that you're using on a day-to-day basis. That's the same thing that's happening with a lot of these layer 1 and layer 2 tokens. They're not just tokens that you can buy and sell, but they're actually creating the actual infrastructure and the building blocks on what these projects are going to be built on. Everyone talks about the NFT hype and how that kind of really generated from the Bored Apes to the CryptoPunks and you name it, but they were all built on an underlying Ethereum ecosystem and a specific token. And so when you understand where the energy we like to call it nerd energy. Where is the nerd energy building on certain ecosystems and certain L1 and L2 applications? Then you could start to have a better understanding of, okay, well, this is where the energy is going, and this is why these platforms and these protocols are becoming more valuable.
So let's actually, you brought it up, so we got to talk NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens, right? Like, I always explain, like, non-fungible is like it's a 101,
Yeah.
right? Like, what's fungible is like $10, right?
Yeah.
2 5s or a $10 bill, it's the same. It's still $10, right? And
Exactly.
so what's your view on NFTs in general?
Yeah, no, look, I'm very excited about the again, it goes back to the most important thing, which is ownership and what you can do with the NFT. I think the first wave was just a lot of the introductions around, okay, well, this is, you can have communities, you can have, art, you can have digital, but it's digital ownership. I do think that the idea of the quote unquote NFT will be put on the sideline, but the value that it's going to generate and the value it's going to create is going to change the way memberships are offered. It's going to change the way music is distributed. It's going to change the way art is being depicted and sold online. We talked about home ownership, cars, so many things of being able to create the next generation of marketplaces and having a buy and sell and being able to easily know that transactional records and being able to create a whole world with the wallet that you have. Again, another thing, it's a wallet right now, but in the next couple of years, will we consider it that, versus, or is it just your digital profile? Or is it your passport? Like, who knows? But these are all technical terms that eventually will be put in the back burner because people will just want to be able to use the benefits of the technology.
So quick question, right, for the interest of time, right? What's your view on digital land, right? Whether it was Earth 2.0 and this, that, and the third, some came, some went.
Yeah.
But overall, what's your view in that space?
Yeah. Well, look, I think that digital land really revolves around digital ecosystems.
Okay.
And so, for example, I'm on the board of a company called Yuga Labs, and we're building an entire metaverse with this project we're calling The Other Side, and where there is digital land that's associated with it. And if you think about like our world and what we live in, like, yeah, we're, there's a good chance you're watching this on your phone or listening to it on your phone right now. We live in a mobile world. If we spend 51% or more of our time on our phone or on our computer, we're technically living in a digital world more than a physical world. It sounds crazy to think, but like that's kind of where we go. And so now being able to set up shops that are online, to have digital facilities, to have digital experiences, if everyone's moving in and out of the other side, quote unquote, and you're having, stores that are being able to have popped up and, to go into Soho and to get land there, or we're already constrained on space. So now having a digital footprint that now you can have unlimited space, or you have a much broader opportunity. And you see more people interacting on this. I mean, just look at what's happening with Roblox and how you're able to create entire new communities and people are building new things on there. And so it just creates a limitless opportunity. And for me, it's something that I'm super fired up about.
I love it, man. Listen, that's it for this episode of Financial Freestyle.
For sure.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us, man. We really hope that you guys left a lot smarter than you came, man. I just truly want to thank my dog, Chris Lyons, a wealth of knowledge, man. I think when you talk about Web3, he's one of those people. He's him in that space. And so I appreciate you for coming here and sharing some knowledge with the audience, man. But guys, make sure you come back here next week for another episode of Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.